I'm facing Akshay Mohan, who is a very regular viewer of the ChessBase India channel. He has seen a lot of streams and improved his game. So it's an excellent feeling to play against someone who has watched a lot of streams and improved as a player. Let's see how he does. He plays the c4 e5 variation in the English. Bishop comes out to b4, bishop to g2, and he castles it out. Akshay is unrated, but he's pretty strong. Knight to f3, hitting the pawn on e5. If you push the pawn on e4, I want to play knight d4. So he first brings his knight out to c6, and now knight to d5. This is one of the important lines. You can see Akshay is a little bit tensed there. He brings his bishop to c5, and now b4 should have been thought of, because see, b4, if he takes knight b4, then eventually his e5 pawn would be hanging. But I was not really in mood to go for any tactical sequences here, and I played a very solid and calm move d3. Now my idea is to play my bishop to g5. So if you play the move d6, that would be very bad. He goes rook e8, but this already allows me to now pin his knight by playing bishop g5. So white has got at least a small edge out of the opening. This is really an irritating pin. He goes back bishop e7, but this allows me to pick up. Knight takes e7, queen takes e7, and I have the bishop pair. And now I castle here, so white is slightly better. Notice that in this position I could have also played bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6 and castles. That would also have been slightly better. Anyway, he plays his pawn to d6 now. Here I should play carefully as what to do. You know, rook b1 seems okay. I go knight d2. Now my plan is to go knight e4, attack this pinned piece. So it's very important for my opponent to play h6, which he does. I take on f6, queen f6. So I've given up my bishop pair, but in return what I get is I get my knight to c3 to d5. This is a very common idea. He plays bishop e6, and black is very solid. He's very solid here, but white definitely has some edge. You know, I want to push, I want to use my bishop on this diagonal and play b4, b5. Time wise, he has 4 minutes on the clock. I have 3 minutes 25 seconds. Rook b1 seems like a very logical move over here, playing rook b1. Once again, Akshay, being very prophylactic, stops my move a3 in order to play b4. Rook b8. Now this is not the best move, because now I get my chance. Now it's time to push the pawn to b4. I don't know why I'm thinking so much here. I have to go anyway. Let's go b4, pushing the pawn. And I think with this white has a small edge for sure, but how much is it possible to convert this edge into something tangible is the question. Now I'm threatening b5, maybe then taking over the a file. That could be a plan. The best move in this position is queen d7, which Akshay plays it. And here there was a lapse in concentration from my end, because I forgot that he can actually play bishop h3 at the right time. So b5 is okay. I push the pawn. I let his knight go back, you know, in this position. And now it is very, very important for me to play the move rook e1, so that bishop h3 can be met with bishop h1. But this momentary lapse of concentration in playing rook a1 allows my opponent to exchange this important bishop on g2, which is actually very powerful looking down the long diagonal. And Akshay here does not miss his chance. Or will he miss it? Not really. He's thinking and he plays it. Excellent move there. And you can see that I'm not happy with that thing, because the bishop on g2 is somehow not only looking at the long diagonal, it also keeps my king safe. Okay, the upside is that I get the 7th rank now, but what will the rook do alone over there? Bishop g2, king takes g2, position is equal, and It's very difficult to outplay your opponent here because his plans are pretty straightforward. He wants to go d5 in this position. I don't have any real weaknesses in the black camp to attack. f4 looks really not in the spirit. He plays d5 here in the position. He breaks open the center, and I don't want him to now go d4, pushing me further away. So taking on d5 looks like the most natural move here. On time he has 2 minutes 18 seconds, and I also have roughly around 2 minutes on the clock. What should white play in this position is the question. I think taking on d5, this is what I'm calculating. cd5, knight d5 and queen b3. I play it, he takes with the knight. And now I want to play queen b3, play it. So white is now definitely better if black does not take on c3, take on c3 and queen b5. That is the most important variation, and he must take it. If he doesn't take that pawn, he would be not doing so well. Although there is one additional move, e4 here, to activate the rook. That is also a very good move. So queen takes b5 has been played, and I take on c7. So my idea here is that the b pawn could be weak, and that's the reason why I played it. Now what black should do here is play rook f8, so that when I play queen f5, take and play b5. But Akshay goes wrong. He goes queen c6, and I'm very happy now because I take, pawn takes, and you can see me leaning in because this is my chance. He has a c6 weakness. I have a rook on the 7th rank. This is risk-free advantage for white. Rook c1 first, attacking the c6 pawn. This is my kind of position. Really like playing such positions, grinding it out with a small edge. If I win the c6 pawn, the 5 versus 4 rook endgame would be definitely better for me. But Akshay can still, of course, hold this. I mean, objectively, this should be around equal. He should go for something active like e4. Let's say after take e3. I'm still slightly better, but exchanging one pair of pawns is to his advantage here. But he's thinking now. He's going low on time as well. But he goes rook b6. Now this is passive. And I go rook c7. This is looking good now. Rook e6. And slowly and steadily I can build up. One plan is to play f3, king f2, king e3. That would be a very nice plan in such a position, so that his e4 is stopped. I go with my rook, who have less time now, 50 seconds only left. He has a minute on the clock. First h4 played to gain more space, perhaps with h5. He plays h5, which is a good move. Rook to c5, nicely done. Here he goes g6, again a decent move. And now rook a5, that's not the best because now black has a very good move here. Yes, rook b2, attacking the e2 pawn. If I play king f3, there is e4 check, takes and check and this. So it's not so simple now to deal with this. I was thinking king f3 is not the safest, and so with this happening all of a sudden, and if I play e3, then the d3 pawn becomes weak. So all in all, but by the way, king f3 was still the best because if he had, whether he would find e4 or not was a question. So I go rook c5 with that face which is kind of unhappy. Rook takes e2, rook takes c6, rook takes c6, rook takes c6, and there you have it, guys. The position has liquidated. It was a very small edge, couldn't convert it, and we agree to a draw. Akshay manages to hold a draw here. By the way, he's going into IIT now to study, and before this might have been his last session at the ChessBase India Chess Club, and he managed to get a draw, and there I am. I want to play king f3 here in this position, as I said, because now if check, I want to play my king to e3 and I'm slightly better. But of course at that point I hadn't seen that e4 was the powerful move that he had.